Well, ANC staffers have done a complete U-turn in the space of hours. An initial statement sent out by Carl Niehaus said employees would be laying criminal charges against the party's leadership because of the non-payment of their salaries. But Niehaus then sent out another statement saying the charges would not be laid and staffers would instead engage with the party's top brass. Well, for more on the actual charges that could still be filed, we speak to legal expert Ulrich Roux, who joins us on Zoom. Ulrich, thank you. I can see you're about to go into court. Well, session is about to start. Thanks very much for chatting to us. Just looking at the papers that weren't filed but drafted, the charges are fraud, corruption and theft.
Hi, good morning, Anneke. Yes, I'm here at the Johannesburg High Court. So quite bizarre, to be honest, in my opinion, that they would want to lay criminal charges because of the non-payment of salaries. Remember that the ANC is their employer. So if there is a dispute pertaining to their salaries, then it is, of course, a labour dispute, and it should be ventilated either in the CCMA or in the labour court. The only way in which criminal charges could successfully be laid and a criminal case pursued is if they can show that their salaries were stolen or that there was some kind of fraud committed which led to the non-payment of the salaries. So one can only assume that Carl Niehaus, after he issued his statement, then obtained proper legal advice, and that is why he retracted his statement. But yes, it is on the face of it a purely a labour law dispute between an employer and the employees.
If it did go to the CCMA or the Labour Court, which it could possibly do considering there's not been payment of salaries, what are the chances of success, especially when you're dealing with a massive monolith like the ANC?
Well, once again, it's an employer-employee relationship. In the case of the ANC not being able to pay salaries, so in other words, there's not sufficient funds to pay the salaries, then one would be staring down the barrel of a liquidation application, because that is what normally happens if an entity or a business cannot pay their salaries. So they would have to then explain to the CCMA the reason as to why the salaries have not been paid. They could very well, allege that the employees have not performed their tasks in accordance with their employment contracts, etc., etc. And that's why I'm saying it is a labour dispute, and these disputes must be ventilated in a labour court. It is refreshing to see that sanity has in fact prevailed and that there are discussions pertaining to the late or the non-payment of the salaries. But once again, if there's not sufficient funding to pay the salaries, then it is a liquidity problem, and that would mean that liquidation proceedings would have to be ensued in order to ensure that those salaries are paid.
It certainly looked like a well-known senior counsel signed off on the papers, which is interesting. But this is a tricky one for you because you're a lawyer, not a political analyst. But certainly it looks as if these were filed by the RET, or the so-called RET faction, against Ramaphosa and the top six. Could this just be an issue of one faction taking advantage of a difficult situation or a dire situation within the ruling party, and actually it's all about politics, really, internal politics?
It does certainly seem as if there is a massive political power struggle on the go here, Anneke. So I agree with you in that regard. Dali Mpofu, senior counsel who is representing the employees, is obviously a very respected and a well-known senior counsel with a wealth of experience. So, but then obviously one cannot lose sight of the fact that he's also representing Jacob Zuma, and as you say, there's a lot of political undertone here, and it could very well be that this dispute has been raised as a result of a certain fraction trying to gain the upper hand. But that, as you know, is pure speculation, and unless we have any proof of that, we can't confirm that. I can only assume that Mr. Advocate Mpofu has advised them properly pertaining to the criminal charges, which I don't think has any merit to them unless they can prove that the salaries or the UIF funds or all the other funds that they claim are due to them have been stolen by the so-called top brass of the ANC, or that fraud has been committed, which led to the non-payment of the salaries.
All right, thank you so much. Good luck with your matter today, Ulrich, in the Johannesburg High Court. It's much appreciated. Thank you. That was Ulrich Roux, a legal expert and director of Ulrich Roux and Associates.